Welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday is what it is. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode, really, of The Wealth Within Us with Michelle Blaze. My name is Savvy Vargas, and I'm going to interview Michelle on why she's wanting to do this platform, The Wealth Within Us. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your thought here is going to be helping folks out there realize, whether it be financially, whether it be with their health, whether it be with pressures of life, whether it be with anything under the umbrella of those things, that really we're all very much the same and we're all in this together. And so we're hoping that this platform is going to be an inspiration and encouragement for people that they do have the wealth within them. Is that basically it, Michelle?
Yeah, that's really it because we all have the wealth within us. I think the hard part is bringing it out. So I struggle with that. And as you and I had talked, one of the things that I want to do is go on this journey essentially with you. I'm not where I want to be in my life. I turned 50 in 2022. I realized I wasn't where I was. I wasn't in a bad place, but I definitely wasn't where I wanted to be. And there were things I wanted to change. I knew my mindset had a lot to play with it. And I went to a retreat and I literally scrounged up the money to go to this retreat. I had to do it in 2 payments because I didn't have enough to go, but something told me I really should go. And I went. And in 3 days, I was very intentional with why I came. I was with other people, and some of them weren't really sure why, but I was extremely intentional on some of the habits that I had had that I needed to drop and the thought patterns that would go through my head. And I literally came out of it. And here's sort of a little story for you. My sister and I, we wear these bracelets and together, and they were like these wish bracelets. And we had all gone on a girls trip and we got these bracelets and we all made a wish. And the thing was, is when the bracelet falls off, your wish will come true. And
No.
I am not even joking. We left this retreat. I went with another girlfriend of mine. We left the retreat and we're in her truck and I got my hand out the window. And no joke, that bracelet went flying off. I actually heard it clang on the side of the thing. And I was like, yep. And it was like, I mean, it was just the best end to that retreat. And that was in September of 2022. So I've been really putting things forward in my life because what I realized was that the things that I wanted to achieve, which aren't so grandiose, like I've always wanted to have a house by the beach, a little beach house cottage or whatever to live in.
Yeah.
And even just something like that, I realized that the things in my life that I was doing were not going to achieve that goal. So
Yeah.
the question then became, well, how am I going to achieve this goal if the things that I'm doing, um, whether it be work or extra things or whatever, what am I going to do now? And then take action upon those. And that was a lot of what it was as well. And so much as honestly, it's January 3rd,
Mhm.
2023. And even in that short, over a little about 3 month time period, things have actually dramatically shifted for me.
Positively?
Definitely positively. And when we talked about doing a podcast and I talked about, well, what was the theme that I wanted to do is
Yeah.
I am honestly, I'm probably worse off than most people that would watch this, to be honest. And I'm not even embarrassed to say it because whatever, I put my
Whatever.
kids first and we had a good life, but
That's right.
if I had it, I spent it. Let's just put it that way. And I learned that from my father. But if I had it, I spent it. But now I am at that point where I see what's happening not only in the world, but I want to help other people on this same journey. Because trust me, if I can do it, and I haven't done it yet, but I will, and I am doing
You
it.
know what's funny about that? Just yesterday or the day before, somebody really, really close in my life said to me, as I mentioned, 2023 is going to be the best ever for us. And the person said to me, I sure hope so, because I'm tired of being mediocre.
Mm,
This is somebody in my immediate family. And so your premise on this idea, the wealth within us, that hits home because somebody in my immediate family, super close to me, said that to me. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean mediocre? What are you talking about? Well, the fact that you came up with this title, the wealth within us, just goes to show the clarity of what you're trying to do. Just the name of the podcast brings clarity, right? Because so many people out there they're caught in the matrix. I like to say they're caught in the matrix.
They are. And I
So,
think we have a preconceived definition of, well, what is wealth? And to me, wealth isn't monetary necessarily. It's part of it, but I mean, health is part of being wealthy, like good relationships, good friendships, having love in your life, enjoying life. This is all to me wealth, but it also has to do with your mindset and how you're thinking. And it made me think, just when you said that, like if I'm saying that I am mediocre and that record is playing in the back of my head, then we need to change that too. And I have a lot of that still going on today, but I'm getting a lot more control over those things that we say to ourselves. And mindset, I really don't believe that we can achieve health or wealth without the mindset to go along with it. Because that's the main driver. The main driver is the mindset. Even if you're talking about a simple diet, you won't succeed with the diet if you constantly are saying to yourself all these negative things.
well, that's where we're going to come in as cheerleaders, because everybody needs some cheerleading,
We're all going to slip up.
And full disclosure, you and I work together in the wellness field, but it's also in the financial health field too. And so you and I work together in your straight up health and also in building wealth too. But the mindset comes into play. And I told my wife the other day, I said, because we're thinking of, if the real estate market crashes in 2023, we'll make our move. That's where we're going to make our move. And I'm like, well, if you're like me, and I told this to my wife, I said, I don't care where I live. I could live straight up in an apartment. I'm going to stay the same. My mindset is I stay the same whether I have this really nice house or a trailer. My mindset is the same. I'm the same. So if you can stay the same whether you have a lot or a little, but you're the same. Because the things that bring me joy are hiking the parks, reading my book, that education that I always get with myself in the fields that I'm interested in, which are spirituality, my health. Because I heard a phrase yesterday, it goes like this: the rich stay healthy and the sick stay poor. So you could have billions of dollars, but if your health is a train wreck, then you are bankrupt. So really, we lead with that health, because you're bankrupt without it. You can't hike the park.
No, and if you add this mindset aspect into it, you said that whole thing about mediocre. Well, who told you, in comparison to what? So I think that's where our mindset comes in. I'm in mediocre comparison to what? And I think we're all taught to compare, but we really shouldn't, because we all are equal. We aren't any better. So if I'm mediocre to who? To this ideal that I've been shown, to this ideal that I think I should be. So I think it's also all of us trying to overcome that as well.
And unique in all the world, because, for example, my wife, I say was because unfortunately her twin sister, passed away, but they were what they call identical twins. So they shared the womb, right? Identical twins. And when I first met them and their family, I said to them, if you're identical twins, do you have the same fingerprints? Right? And this is getting to the uniqueness of everything. And they said, and they didn't know. They said, I would think we do. And I said, I bet you don't. I bet you don't have the same fingerprints. Well, it turns out they don't, because there's nothing, including identical twins, in the world that are exactly the same. everybody is a unique person. Even if you go to get your hair cut, if you know, like the gal that cuts my hair is like 40 years doing it. And she will straight up tell you everybody's hair is different. They have their own texture, their own color, even everything in this world is unique. And so you have to understand, like you said, mediocre in comparison to what? You're unique in the whole universe. You're unique with your own talents too. We just have to tap into what you love, what you inherently love to do. And what I inherently love to do, you and I do together, which is the wellness field. If that leads to wealth, great. If it does not lead to wealth, great. That's what I love to do.
Yeah, and in that same context, but we're all unique, but we're also all equal and equally deserving.
That's right.
Deserve that thing any less than I do from this sort of spiritual aspect. Not that, well, I didn't work for it, I don't deserve it, but it's more like we're all kind of given the same thing. You're not special because of a bloodline or because of this or that.
No.
And I think that's a hard thing for myself included to get over or to get past and realize is a lie that you were told.
Well, you and I were talking about it prior. In the world that we live in, truth be told, there are these groups of bloodlines that, for whatever reason, are considered elites. Like even in England, you got the royal family or whatever, you know, and they are elitists, you know, and they're up here and you're down there. That's not true. That's not true. And it might be the system we live in, but in the universal laws of the world, it's not true. Okay, because they grow old, they die. You know, it's more of a power grab than anything else. It's like you said when we were talking earlier, those people live in the world of fear and scarcity. So they want it all for them.
Yeah.
When in fact, we live in the world of abundance and sharing and caring.
Yeah.
That's the world that we live in. And
that's
so
where the wealth comes in. The wealth comes when you live and act in that abundant, caring, loving, empathetic way.
yeah, that's right. I mean, this, you know, I guess it boils down to the word greed. But, you know, the system we're under is this fear driven, there's not enough for everybody thing. But there really is. In fact, Rashid Buttar, you know, I'm in his conference right now, the Advanced Medical Conference. In the introduction to that conference, he talks about abundance. And he used the illustration of just a tree. He said, have you ever tried to just count the leaves on a tree? You know how many leaves are on one tree? How many leaves are on there? Or how about one beach? How many grains of sand on one beach in the world? Forget it. You can't count the grains of sand on a beach. Really, we live in a world of abundance. Have you ever had one orange tree? When I lived in Florida, I had a grapefruit tree, orange tree, and a tangerine tree in my yard. You can't eat all them oranges. You're going to have to give some away unless you want to juice like crazy every day. We live in a world of abundance. So we don't live in that fear-based scarcity thing that these power pigs live in.
But what we're trying to escape is that we're taught lack, we're taught compliance, we're taught fear. So all of the things that we're taught, now we're trying to unravel all of that, you know, programming, your nightly programming.
Well, I would just hate to see my little grandbabies grow up in a world where they don't think they're good enough or they can't quite get there. They're always broke. They're buried in debt. I mean, that's the crazy system, the matrix that we call it, that we're in. So if we can have a podcast like this where we help people unplug from this matrix crap, then I'm all for that, because that stuff pisses me off, fires me up.
And that's part of what we're doing. We're figuring out, well, okay, so we can recognize all this, but how are we going to break out of it? And I think now is a good time to get into like where you come from and where I come from, so they know a little bit of our background, not just where we're going, but maybe where we were.
Well, again, sort of trapped in the matrix too, I mean, you grow up in the schools that are little propaganda machines, and about 80% of the history they teach you, that's fake. And so you come up and, oh, don't forget to go to college and get your degree and all that and get into all that debt. Well, for me, it ends up getting married pretty young, like 21 years old, and then getting trapped in the matrix of mortgages and 30-year mortgages and car payments and a credit card over there and raising children. Well, you get into that little world of the 30-year mortgage and the car payment and the credit cards and raising 2 kids, and you're kind of in that little meat grinder, right? And you got to raise your kids.
Yeah.
So you're kind of trapped in the meat grinder. But the whole time, if you're kind of an awake, conscious person, a thinker, the whole time you're like, there's something weird with this picture here. There's got to be more than this, right? This 9 to 5 till 65, dead at 75 thing, there's got to be more to it, right? And you start thinking of a way to get out of it. Well, my natural inclination was to do something to do with health and wellness. That's my gig, right? Like the human suffering thing is disturbing to me. I'm not into it. I don't like to see people suffering over here and on 9 medications and they can't stand up straight. And so, wait a minute. So you did 9 to 5 till 65, but at 55, your health was trashed, and the little tiny little bit of money you saved, you're pissing that away at the doctor. And so your quality of life at 55 starts to suck, and you're dead at 75? No.
Yeah.
No, there's got to be more than that. Well, that's when I started planning my escape from all that. I started planning my escape, right? And there's a book out there called Your Money or Your Life. It's a life-changing study. Your Money or Your Life by Joe Dominguez. And you do that study and you're like, wait a minute. I'm trapped in the matrix of trying to make this money, which turns out to be fake money, and I could be sacrificing my health for fake money. I'm going to get into life extension work of living a long, long time and getting into something that produces real wealth. And then I'm going to pass that on to my children.
Not just being alive, actually living.
Being alive, having a quality of life, whatever that is for you. For me, it's hiking all the parks of the world. Out there hiking the parks. Well,
hitting all the beaches.
And you're hitting all the beaches. There you go. Right now, we can't do that if we're stuck in the 9 to 5.
No.
Till 65.
And the thing is, most of us can never work 40, 60 hours a week to even get that. So now we're trading all this time for dollars, but there's not enough time to trade. So part of this is trying to, how do you leverage that? So you are creating the wealth, all of the wealth. And when I say wealth, I don't just mean the money. I mean the health, the abundance, the life, the love, the relationships, and all of that stuff.
Well, it sounds to me like your story is you kind of put your children first, as you should. And were you a single mom?
I was. I divorced when my kids were just around 7, 8, and their dad moved to another state. So yeah, so it was primarily me.
So one of the hardest jobs like ever, single mom raising children, right?
And I'd worked from home. So I'd worked corporate, and I had already had my own business doing graphic and website design, which I still do. So I was able to do it at home. And, I became the parent that when there was a half day or whatever, oh, can we bring them over to your house? So, and I loved being that. I loved not missing stuff. And I don't even look at it like a sacrifice. I chose to do those things and worry about my financial future a little bit later. I was kind of always into my health, always into alternative health. I never really trusted doctors, I have to say. And just always took health mostly into my own hands, because I kind of believe doctors are really good for emergency situations, but I don't think for the chronic and the general that they're that great. So I just took those things into my own hands, and I've been fairly healthy, and the things that I have overcome, I've done it naturally. I had PCOS, was diagnosed with PCOS at a very young age, around 16 or so, and by my early to mid 30s had healed myself of that. It was without pharmaceuticals, saying that this will just be your lot in life. And
So share what that is, because you were saying an acronym, right? What is that?
polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Okay. And so you did that naturally.
I did, and I learned that a lot of it was energy and mindset. So it was
Okay.
the thoughts that I was thinking that were creating these conditions in my body. And I didn't necessarily have to relive them like going to a traditional therapist or a psychologist. It was releasing that energy, and I sought a lot of energy healers. I really honestly didn't even do a lot of herbal stuff, a little bit, but not much. It was almost it finally happened in about 2 years, maybe a little less, and it was mostly through a lot of energy work and a lot of release, and the mindset to not hang on to it, even though some of it I didn't even know what it was. And I learned from that experience that I don't need to know what it is. I don't need to go through it and relive it and spark all that up again. I can let go of this in a much healthier, much natural way by saying, you're not serving me. I don't need to reevaluate you, re-examine you, relive you. I'm just willing to let it go, to love it and let it go. Whatever it was, it's now gone. And now I'm in a better place. And that was really what started a lot of my journey with sort of alternative and
My
more
goodness, it
natural healing.
sounds like Joe Dispenza work almost, like you're talking about there,
Yeah,
like a
and
Joe
this was
Dispenza type
back
thing.
in this was long. This was back in the early, maybe like 2010.
Yeah, but you're
Maybe not even,
describing it,
no,
Joe.
maybe
Just
like 2005. I had started that journey. I'm trying to think now. My kids were quite young, so
you know
yeah,
what's
that was a
interesting
long
too,
time ago.
with you and me is that I'm sort of a I don't want to say a rebel, but it kind of is a little bit some rebelliousness in there, and that I don't really want somebody telling me what to do like a
Yeah.
boss. And also stubborn in that don't tell me that we can't heal ourselves. Don't tell me we can't win. I know we can. Kind of a
Yeah.
stubborn attitude about winning. Well, now I look at you and you're like, okay, well, I spent a lot of my earnings raising kids, single mom, and now I'm at this point at 50. But what you and I do together could fast track as regards wealth area, we could fast track that in like less than 5 years.
Hmm.
And you could be making so much more than the average American in way less hours, which goes back to your money or your life study. That's what that study was about. It was a mathematical way of figuring out how to make more money in way less time. And
Yes.
now you have more time
And what better way to make that wealth than by not by helping other people,
by
genuinely
helping other
helping
people,
other
freeing
people,
them up too,
bring them
right?
out with their health and their wealth as well, and their mindset. Because the thing that I think connected everything for me was it really is about mindset. And I struggle with mind. I still do. I still do. And it's definitely part of my journey. I
Mhm.
can say some of the things that I say, and then there's that voice in the back of my head that's like, maybe not for you. And then I got to kick it out and be like, who
Like
are
people
you?
say, they say,
Out of there.
Michelle,
It's
what do you do for a living?
the awareness around it. And that's what you gain more than anything is you start to gain this awareness around it, and you have to have the awareness around it to let it go. If you don't
Yeah.
realize that you're saying these things over and over in your head that aren't true, then how are you going to stop unless you catch yourself doing it? So that's part of this whole process and this whole journey that I've definitely begun to focus on a lot more the last year or two.
Yeah, but you already proved that you can successfully raise your children while working your own gig, right? I mean, you've already proven that, right? So we're kind of not just blowing smoke or blowing hot air around. You already did it with the children. I escaped from the matrix too, out of the 9 to 5. So we've already done that part. And
And it is
so,
the proverbial onion. It's like, well, what layers next? I raised my kids the way that I wanted to them. I got rid of this disease that was
yeah,
affecting whatever it was affecting me, didn't make me feel like me. And it wasn't until I healed myself of that that I could really feel like who I was at that point. So it's like, well, what's the next layer? And the big thing for me was I was always a good manifester. So if I knew I needed money for something, I could always get it. But I was what I called, and maybe other people can relate to this. I was what I called myself this just in time manifester. And I was really good at manifesting things just in time.
yeah,
And then it would be like until the next time. And then it's like, oh, but there was a lot of stress with that. It's like in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I know it's going to come. I know it's going to come. But it came also with a lot of stress and a lot of worry and all this other stuff. So
well, it's the fear of the unknown. But then
it
the
was,
more the more you accomplish it over and over just in time. Okay, again, just in
yeah.
time, just in time.
So
Then you're almost like,
and one of the things I went to that retreat with was I need to stop this just in time mentality. It is literally sabotaging anything that I want to do. And I knew that was a big part of the sabotage was this just in time. And I'm not saying I still don't have it, but it's
yeah, yeah,
starting to get better in even just the 3 short months. So it's hopefully this stuff that we can bring to other people so that I want everybody to experience the wealth within and know that they already have it. It's just a
yeah,
matter of getting all the clutter and the crap out of the way to
yeah.
get out.
It's kind of a detox. I'm a
Yeah,
detoxification guy. That's what I do. And you're talking about like detoxifying your mind, like
exactly.
removing the obstructions from the mind so things can flow easier. So it's kind of a detox that way, like emotionally, psychologically detoxing, right? Because when you unplug from the matrix, like we talk about, there is like, I'll be 64. So let's just say when I started waking up, let's say around 45-ish, you have 45 years of that programming to flush out, and they're still bringing more programming in. And so you can be still influenced a little bit by that stuff too. And then the more aware you become, the more you could say, no, that's BS, that's propaganda. But you have to detoxify your programming that
Well,
you've
and
had.
I hope that that's the other thing as this goes on. I also want to bring people's awareness on how to critically think. And I was
Yeah.
lucky that for most of my life, I've been this questioner of like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound right. And kind of like you, like, there's a lot of things that never added up to me. And my friends, I was always the conspiracy theorist. I was always sort of like the conspiracy theorist, the one who was trying all these wacky things. And that was me. And they loved me for it, thank God. But
Yeah, yeah,
that was me in the friend group. So I was that girl, yes.
yeah. And hey, God bless you for that too. Because now, especially over the last couple of years,
Yeah, it's
all the,
starting to
all the
serve me a lot
conspiracy
more.
theorist people, oh my God, they were all right.
It's almost like we're not conspiracy theorists. It's like we're predictors.
Truth seekers, you
Yeah.
know.
So but
Well,
we'll get into a bunch of that stuff as time goes on as well.
the more knowledge up you get is empowering over here and annoying over here because you see all these other people, maybe they're even in your family, that are still following the robotic propaganda world like a zombie, and you're like, no, what are you doing? Wake up. No, that's the wrong way.
Well, and it
Go.
plays into the mindset thing because what I've learned is that so the more I sort of uncover and the more truth I see, the freer I feel.
Yeah.
Like, and you wouldn't think that. You'd be thinking, man, you must be like freaked out, all this, whatever. And it's like, no, it's the freer I feel. And I say that to people and they're like, I don't want to know this. It makes me nervous. It makes me scared. And it's like, you get to a point where you're like, you have to get to this point where you're like, you just kind of laugh. And it's more
Yeah.
empowering because you see it for what it is. And
Yeah.
it's so freeing. Like, I've actually never felt freer in the last couple of years than I have, because I can see through some of this stuff and be like, really?
Well, maybe it's my testosterone then, because I'm a man and I have more testosterone than, say, a female, to where I get annoyed by it.
Mm.
And I'm like, it'll almost make me angry, especially if I see somebody that suffers unnecessarily because they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know and they fell for it.
So to be clear with where I think we're at, I think there's a place for both, but nothing should ever be relied on or taken at its word. Do your research. And
Yeah.
so many people put their unwavering trust where it really wasn't earned.
Yeah, that's right. And so a lot of people, they just go, whatever he says, that's what I do.
And
They
I can
don't question it.
tell you from my own experience that no medical doctor ever would have cured polycystic ovarian syndrome, ever.
No, no,
But I did.
they might have made it worse. So you became your own doctor, and it's called Doctor Yourself.
There's a lot of people in these natural worlds that know what they're doing as well and can help guide you along the path. So,
And even then, though, like there's a few that I've known that get a little commercialized, and
yeah,
they start, you go to them and you come out with $600 worth of supplements in a bag.
yeah,
Right. And so that's the beauty of what you and I will get into with light frequency patches, is they're the easiest thing ever to do. There's one right there, and there's one right there. I've got two on this one hand, right? I'm wearing four today.
mm,
And so if you can put on a band-aid, you're good to go. And it's another level, because now we're working with light
yes,
frequency. The future is here now with light frequency medicine that's non-invasive.
yes.
No swallowing anything, no rubbing anything in. You just put on your
Pharmaceutical
patch.
and
And
vegan friendly.
yeah, that's right. And so we have all the tools. Nobody needs to suffer now. And when we get into wealth, it's the fast track to wealth too. Because just while you and I sit here right now with what you and I do together, just within 1 hour, you can make $200 and I could make $200.
Yeah.
So we're doing a podcast to help people, and we could be getting paid from what we do while we're sitting here. It's a beautiful thing, right?
So now that everybody knows all this, now you have to stay tuned for our next episode, and you can even learn more about what all that's about and help us on our journey, me on my journey, to open and bring out the wealth within us all.
Absolutely. Episode 1. Pleasure to be here with you, Michelle.
And same with you. I think this is going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
We're going
All right.
to stir some people up.
That's right. Ruffle some feathers, but for
Exactly.
their good, for
The only
their
way
own
it
good.
gets done. It's the only way it gets done.